It's election day here in the United States, and by tonight, hopefully, we'll know who the next president of the United States will be, as well as the balance of power in the Senate and House of Representatives. But this episode isn't about politics, at least not directly. Now, let's face it, politics feels like it's divided us more and more, especially over the past decade. But here's what I want you to consider. What if it's not actually politics that's dividing us? Today, we're going to take a look hard at the real force driving division in our society, the media machine. And by that, I mean the entire machine. Mainstream media, social media, everything. This machine doesn't just deliver information, it amplifies opposing narratives, not to inform, but to keep us divided, distracted, and ultimately profitable. It's become more about entertainment than the truth. This media machine controls the flow of information with almost no accountability. It doesn't seek truth, it seeks profit. And in pursuit of that profit, it divides us, fuels our anger, keeps us scrolling, watching, and consuming. We're plugged into a system designed to keep us distracted, to keep us feeding its power without realizing the cost. But today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're breaking down how it all works and how we can finally fight back before it gets too late. Thanks for tuning into the Ryan Files this week. I'm sure this episode will only help in shadow banning this channel, but someone's got to share the truth out there. And since you're already here, be sure to subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends. Thank you so much. Let's start out with a fact that most people don't realize. Just a handful of massive corporations control nearly all mainstream media today. Back in the 1990s, there were about 50 different major media companies out there, giving audiences a wider range of sources and viewpoints. But by the early 2000s, that number had been reduced to just 9 corporations. Today, only 5 remain. That's right, we're talking about the Big Five. Companies like Comcast, Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount Global, and News Corp own all the major media outlets, both liberal and conservative, giving the illusion of diverse opinions when in reality, they control nearly all of what we see and hear on both sides of the political aisle. And here's what's crucial to understand. These corporations are for-profit entities. They are not interested in presenting the whole truth. They're only interested in presenting what makes them money. As control has consolidated, we've been exposed to fewer viewpoints, fewer perspectives, and ultimately a version of reality that serves the profit goals of these corporations, not our understanding of the world. Consolidation has also created a lack of competition between the few remaining media corporations. It's no longer about who gets the story first or who gets it right. We're seeing a shift from true journalism to infotainment, content that's designed to entertain rather than inform. Now, this shift is intentional. Investigative journalism, which requires time and resources, has been cut in favor of sensational, surface-level headlines. It's why so much of what we see is driven by clickbait and drama rather than deep reporting. We're getting sound bites, not substance. And the more scandalous or divisive the content, the more likely it is to keep you watching. Mainstream and social media corporations protect themselves by claiming they're the guardians of free speech and freedom of the press, saying any attempt to regulate them threatens democracy. But here's the truth. They're protecting their profits, not our freedoms. And while they enjoy near total freedom, that doesn't extend to any of us, the U.S. citizen, whatsoever. On social media, our posts can be flagged, shadow banned, or outright removed if they don't fit platform policies. We've all seen it, users shut down or labeled just for expressing certain views. Have you forgotten 2020 already? Meanwhile, the media giants push whatever content they choose. No labels, no warnings, no oversight. Why? Because content that drives engagement, no matter how extreme, makes them money. The issue is that these companies claim to be platforms, which shields them from liability, but they also make editorial choices like traditional publishers. It's the best of both worlds for them, freedom from accountability and complete control over content. All this is happening as average citizens like you and I are losing our voices, our freedom of speech, or even just the ability to disagree with what we are being told we must believe. We're being silenced. and no one is doing anything about it. Think about that. The system is brilliant and self-perpetuating. Social media algorithms are designed to keep us hooked by pushing content that triggers us: anger, outrage, fear. These platforms keep us on edge, reinforcing our beliefs in echo chambers. It's no accident. Studies have been shown that our brains release dopamine, the feel-good chemical, when we engage with social media. Every like, every share, it's a hit, creating a cycle of craving and reinforcement that makes social media addictive, just like gambling, nicotine, or drugs. It's so powerful that it's changing how we think and interact. We're scrolling, reacting, and reposting in place of real discussions. Real social skills are eroding, and with them, our ability to empathize and communicate. Instead of fostering genuine connections with people, these platforms divide us further, isolating us into bubbles of agreement where we're most likely to believe the other side is evil or totally wrong. Don't believe me? Have you heard the stories of how families can no longer get together for Thanksgiving because of differences in their political views? Have you experienced this yourself in your families? Where does all this vitriol come from? It comes from the media machine. And in buying into their programming, you are losing your family, your friends, and your voice, and your freedom. And while all this is going on, your browsing data is being collected and sold for a nice little profit for the media machine. In 1948, the Smith-Mundt Act allowed the U.S. government to counter foreign propaganda but banned that content from being broadcast in the U.S. But in 2012, all that changed. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act allowed government-produced media to be broadcast here in the United States, including on social media. In simple terms, this means our own government's propaganda can now legally reach us through mainstream media and social media. With media and social media platforms consolidated as they are, a party in power with influence over these channels can amplify favorable narratives while suppressing anything that challenges them. This influence isn't just subtle. If a single party controls the message, it becomes normalized, making alternate viewpoints seem extreme or even unacceptable. And without oversight, government-produced content can present selectively framed information, controlling the public perception of the truth. Media corporations spend millions every year lobbying Congress, ensuring laws stay in their favor. These lobbyists protect profits by persuading officials not to pass regulations that would hold media accountable for anything at all. And here's the reality. While lobbying isn't technically bribery, it sure works similarly. Campaign contributions keep politicians reelected, and term limits, which could bring in a fresh voice every now and then, well, they're practically a pipe dream at this point. Our lawmakers are tied to lobbyist dollars. This entrenched system of corporate-backed politicians and media corporations doesn't just influence, it controls. And the longer officials stay in office, the more entrenched these relationships become. And never forget just how interconnected these three entities are: the news, politicians, and lobbyists. The relationship actually has a name. It's called the revolving door. After a political career, a politician always has a lucrative job waiting with a news company or a lobbying company, or vice versa. And while we are divided as a country, it's obvious that the media, lobbyists, and politicians are all rowing their boat in the same direction, no matter the party. Here's the scariest part. These corporations and platforms hold massive power over our thinking, including our elections. They control public opinion, influence debates, and even shape election outcomes by controlling what's seen and how it's framed. Remember, it's not about truth, it's about profit. And if a foreign government or corporation wants to sway public opinion, they can pay to promote their narrative on social media. Russia was very open about the money they spent on social media during the 2020 election. And the ads were not for one candidate or the other, but rather to undermine public trust in the electoral process and increase political polarization in the United States, the exact same thing the corporate media machine is doing in our country. Our information landscape is for sale, and the influence of these corporations on public discourse and elections won't change because Congress benefits from lobbyists. As long as this continues, they have free rein to shape public thought, and they do. Ask yourself, have you ever allowed yourself to be their pawn? To some degree, I think we all have. But perhaps it's time to change. Here's the truth, and it's overwhelming. I'll admit, researching this episode left me pretty frustrated. If you ever wanted to get conspiratorial, you would certainly take a look at any common ties and who holds significant ownership stakes in major social media companies and the big five mainstream media companies. Is there one group controlling them all and controlling the messaging that is being delivered to the American public? Because it certainly seems like all these media outlets are saying the exact same thing.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news
has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Would you be shocked to learn that three major asset management firms called BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street hold significant ownership stakes in almost every major media and social media company? Check it out. Now, of course, all of these companies will point out that their holdings are on behalf of investors in their funds, and they typically do not exert direct control over the company's operations. But when you think of an entity or entities who actually could control all the information and messaging, you must keep your eye on BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Even more disturbing, Salim Ramji, who was the former senior managing director at BlackRock, was appointed the CEO of the Vanguard Group in July of 2024. If these three companies were ever to merge, they would very nearly own the world, or at least own influence enough to make the world their own. Now that is my opinion, but I'm interested. What do you think? And there really are few options out there today to get accurate information. Before Elon Musk bought Twitter, or X, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street were major investors in Twitter. It's no longer a public company. Elon owns it. But do I trust everything I see on X? Absolutely not. What about privately owned news outlets like Newsmax? Probably a better choice, I'd say, but later this year or next year, Newsmax will become a publicly traded company under the ticker symbol NMAX. We'll be sure to see just what percentage of that ownership will be in the hands of BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and I personally am interested to see if their programming and messaging changes whatsoever. So what about government-owned or state-funded news services like Voice of America? Well, it's all government propaganda, which they admit. What about broadcasters primarily funded or supported by public resources like PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service, or NPR, National Public Radio? Well, many of those resources are government grants, and the Smith Modernization Act will ensure that you get a nice dose of propaganda when you tune in. If you search, you'll find what you're looking for. And if you need a place to start looking, well, I'll leave a few links in the description below. But as scary as it is with this machine in place, we're not powerless. We can still step back and take control, refusing to let social media and the mainstream media define our lives and shape our thoughts. We can choose to see through the surface level narratives, to think for ourselves, and to reject being mere pawns in a game designed to divide and distract us all. I have my own political views, but they don't define my worth as a person, and they shouldn't define yours either. We are individuals capable of thinking critically, separating truth from propaganda, and recognizing manipulation when we see it. So tonight, as we await election results, remember this. We don't have to buy into the division the media machine is selling, and the division that they're going to be selling tomorrow, no matter who wins the election. The media machine thinks we'll believe anything they feed us, but truth has a way of rising to the surface, and our strength lies in our ability to question, to look deeper, and to discover it for ourselves. But this is imperative. If we don't start now, we may lose a chance to ever push back again. So I encourage each of you in the days, weeks, and months to come to listen for your own voice. Recognize when you're being handed the same narrative again and again. And no matter your political affiliation, know that they're trying to use you as a pawn to drive profits for their media machine, be it CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News. Open your eyes, and then do something that truly scares them. Refuse to be their pawn. Make the choice to step outside the echo chamber, to think independently, to have real conversations with real people in person, and to seek the full truth no matter where it takes you. Because once you do, they lose their power over you. And that's a power they fear more than anything. If you're still with me, thank you. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends, and stop by theryanfiles.com. If this channel ever gets shut down, you'll know where to find me. And while you're there, become an agent of the Ryan Files. We can't wait for you to join our community. Remember, folks, you're free to think for yourself. Don't let them control your thoughts, your beliefs, and most importantly, your relationships. Truth matters, and so do you. Stay curious, my friends. Be awesome, be kind, be generous, and I will see you right here next week on The Ryan Files.
Are you not curious?
Preparing to transfer the Ryan Files. Now.
I present to you, with great intrigue and wonder, the Ryan Files.
In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some of the spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take the spring out of the step of the Easter Bunny.